What's up, everybody? Thanks for listening to the Whatcast. We hope you're good. We hope if you're in the LA area, you're safe at least. Holy mackerel. Have you seen any of that shit on the news?
I don't watch the news. I don't see anything.
I always ask you that, and I know you don't watch the news. Yeah, LA's like burning down. It's pretty rough. It's massive.
No, yeah, I know about the fires. I just don't watch the news. But
well, we hope anybody from the area is safe and stays safe. So
yeah. If you're in the area and it's on fire, please get out of the area.
Exactly.
I've seen videos of people in their house recording the fire all around them, and that sounds terrifying. Unless you've got a moat. If your house is surrounded by a moat, then more power to you.
Stand your ground.
Yeah, the moat will save your life.
A moat for every home in America, I say. Or at least California, shit.
Yeah, in fire-prone places, every house gets a moat. And that's what the next governor of California should run on.
Right. And if you have no criminal record, you get 2 alligators for your moat.
That's a pretty good deal, honestly.
Yeah, I'm in. Well, today we're going to talk about something that I've never heard of. It's called the 1993 Scole experiments. The SCOLE, Scole. And it's a very gnarly case, Mike, but I wanted to ask you, I like to check up on where you are with certain subjects, as we both know that our opinions change and stuff like that, which we're allowed to do. You youngsters, you can change your opinion on things. It's pretty cool. Where do you stand these days on just classic ghost stuff that's supposed to be people that have died?
I don't believe it, and I think it's either. No, I think it's something else. Like I don't discount the phenomenon itself, but I think if it happens, that it's not what it's presenting itself to be necessarily. Like in terms of hauntings, like I don't think someone's sticking around their house haunting their old house or anything like that. I think, like I've always said before, I think there's 2 types of hauntings. You've got the weird energy recordings where events get repeated over and over. You cannot interact with them. Things happen just as they did, and it stays that way. Or the entity hauntings, or the intelligent hauntings, where there's something else that's there. That seems to be intelligently interacting and maybe communicating with the victims or the whoever's being impacted, I guess. Do we want to call them victims? Haunting yeah, I guess victim would be okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
it's not fun.
No, yeah. But I don't think it's like dead people sticking around being like, well, I'm dead now, so I'm going to fuck with the living. I think there's more to it than that. And I think a lot of times they'll present themselves as being a former human because of our own personal superstitions and belief in the afterlife and in some cases belief in ghosts and whatnot. It's easier to make the connection if they're saying they're a disembodied human. And in a lot of cases we see where they're kind of insidious, where they'll kind of work their way in and start small and playful and then become dangerous. And I think that's like their in is making that connection for like human to human and then slowly reveal themselves to be not what they're claiming to be.
Right. So, I mean, with that, I kind of see where you're coming from with that. But what do you say to these things where people report that they're saying that there's somebody that used to be alive, and what type of entity do you think would use manipulation like that if it's not the spirit of somebody who used to be alive?
Well, are you talking like events where there's a haunting, or are you talking events like where someone will wake up and see a loved one sitting on the foot of their bed?
Let's just say that it's something that somebody's talked to. It's a spirit that they were able to speak to, communicate with, and it's said that they lived in this time, blah, blah, seance,
oh, okay.
ghost sighting, whatever you want.
Okay. Well, I think like mediums, that sort of thing. I think that there can be some reality to that, where they are communicating with the deceased in some way. I don't necessarily think it's like a back and forth sort of thing. I think it's more reading into impressions than anything else. Um, and because these impressions are tied back to loved ones that are deceased, it kind of gives the feeling of communication, but I don't think that's necessarily what's going on. I think it's kind of just like feelings and senses and vibes, for lack of a better term, that they're picking up from these energies. And I think that's really what it is in the end, is picking up on energy rather than actually communicating with the soul of someone who's been deceased. We know energy can't be created or destroyed. It's always there. So when somebody dies, their energy still exists somewhere. And whether there's an afterlife or, reincarnation, or you just die, your energy is still going to exist and linger on. So maybe these people are able to pick up on the energy that still exists in this world, or maybe the energy that the person that they're working with is giving off. And maybe it's more of like a psychic sort of thing, where they're unintentionally picking up on memories and things that the customer has regarding the loved one that they're communicating with.
Right.
I don't have the ability, so I can't say how it works. I'm only speculating. I've said many times how skeptical I am in the past regarding mediums. I do think that real mediums exist. I don't want to say across the board that they're all charlatans. I just think it's a field where someone who is a halfway decent con person would be able to kind of manipulate that to their advantage. And if you've got charisma on your side and a pretty face, maybe you can get a TV deal.
Right.
But I do think the real ones exist. And I've talked about the one that my partner has gone to, and I've listened to those, and just, tried to see if she gave anything away while talking to the medium. And the medium said things that blew me away, that I'm like, there's no fucking way. Like, only certain people would really know what that reference meant. And she just fucking throws it out there. Like, it's crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah. Like, I think she's the real deal. I can't explain what she does. And I've never had a reading with her personally, so I can't comment on that. I can only comment on the recordings of the sessions that I've heard, but I don't know. She seems legit to me. So I guess I went off on a mega tangent there, but I as a rule, I don't think ghosts are dead people, like in a haunting. I think it may be possible for recently deceased to appear briefly, like as a final goodbye, or like a comforting gesture, something like that. I've heard of that happening many times, and I think it's more of a comfort for the living than granting the deceased an opportunity to stick around. But anything that's going to be persistent, I do not believe is a human spirit trapped on Earth.
Well, what we're going to talk about, I think they might have the goal of this. The goal of this experiment was to find irrefutable audio, video, and photographic evidence of the afterlife. And we'll get into what they found, but I think they may have inadvertently proved your theory there, because, like, as weird as ghost shit happening, it gets weirder than that. In 1993, a team of paranormal researchers from a group called the Scole Experimental Group set out to do this study, 5-year study, to find irrefutable, reproducible evidence of the afterlife. The way the team ran stuff, which I'll get into some of the things they did later, they were really really dead set on providing no political, no religious, open to everybody studies that would leave no question that could be reproduced at any time to prove that there was an afterlife. Like I said, I hadn't heard about this, but this is considered one of the most important experiments in that subject to ever be conducted. And I was surprised to see it happen in 1993, as early as that. But this team consisted of 7 members. Robin and Sandra Foy, they were longtime paranormal researchers. Dana and Alan Bennett, who were renowned mediums. And then people from the experimental group, just the foundation, I guess. A French woman named Mimi, a researcher named Ken, and a friend of his named Bennett. So the first attempt that they made to get any type of evidence like this was in January of 93. And they would hold these experiments in the basement of the Foy's home. It was like a windowless, just dank European. This is in England, so it's just like just an underground room. And the first experiment was slow to start with, but they began to hear knocks and whistles, which persisted for a while. The team felt a touch of success when an item that was on a table they were using was suddenly knocked to the ground. They had no way to explain that happening, so they figured that they were onto something, and they were doing just like the typical seance stuff, like your normal "is anybody here" type of shit. So they that was their first session. Their second session, the same thing happened. The knocks and whistles persisted, and again something was knocked off the table that they were using, but this time they had brought an audio recorder, a tape recorder, and they immediately played it back. And they said that when they played it back, there was like a slight static sound. It got louder and started to build and get louder. And as soon as whatever hit what was on the table hit it, that static sound stopped. And it didn't return for the rest of this audio recording. So they possibly attributed that to something gathering enough energy to do something like that. Have you ever heard of anything like that? I found that pretty interesting.
Yeah, where I've heard of that, like where people that are sensitive, never like anything scientifically backing it, but where people that are sensitive are able to feel whatever the entity is, like manifesting energy, and like remember, I think it was Unsolved Mysteries, but the one about the British dude who was a medium that had his ghost sidekick.
Yeah, we covered that one.
Yeah. He had instances like that where he was able to feel that it was manifesting the energy and then feel like the big release of energy when it was departing or moving an object or doing something, But there's no like scientific backing for that. It's for him, it's a feeling, but it's interesting that he was able to kind of run commentary on it and say he's feeling this building up and then something happens. It's
right.
But here they were able to actually record something.
Yes. And throughout that summer, they would get much of the same, but they were really set on not doing anything that could be called bullshit on. They would do these sessions in this basement with absolutely no light on. But what they would do is they had like a glow-in-the-dark Velcro, like bracelets, like Velcro straps that they would put on everybody's wrists and ankles so that they can see where people's hands are. If they try to take it off to pull a fast one, you can hear the Velcro. They would put reflective tabs on any like steady surface, like a table or any chair.
Damn, they weren't fucking around.
No, they didn't want to do this for fame. They were dead set on just proving that there is life after death. They had thermometers set at ceiling and floor level to monitor the temperature of the room. They even kept the thermometer outside to compare the temperature to... They really would do things that would prevent any bullshit from happening, and they were very hesitant to do anything that could be called into question. But during this time that summer, they would see random lights, random orbs. They reported sudden whiffs of smoke that would manifest out of nowhere, and they even started to feel things that would pull on their clothes. Now, the Foyers themselves, at this point, reluctantly, I have to say, started to use themselves as what they called transcommunication. And we've heard of this. This is allowing permission for whatever entities that are there to use their bodies to speak through. And I think we've talked about this before. I find that scary. That's a level of possession. Would you agree, Mike?
Yeah, that's 100% possession. It's just you're allowing it.
Right, right. So through doing these transcommunication sessions, they learned that they were surrounded by spirits. There was a conglomerate of spirit individuals, including doctors, researchers, and scientists that would communicate the best they could with the team through them doing this transcommunication. They said by the end there was thousands of people that would show up, but only a few that would talk to them. But the human team, they called that group the spirit team of all these ghosts, I guess, that would talk to them. The human team felt iffy about doing this transcommunication thing, like I mentioned, out of fear of being accused of acting or trying to act up anything. So they just decided to be pretty crafty about it and asked the ghost team what they should do. How should they continue with their research? And they said that they should let Alan and Diana be the transcommunicators as they were mediums. And from that point on, the communication with the spirit team was much more reliable. After that, they soon got their first piece of physical evidence. And again, this is through talking with what's there, using this transcommunication. A spirit had teleported a coin onto the table that they were using. And they didn't know that it had done that. They turned on the light and it was there. And it was actually a coin that had been out of print for 30 years. So what do you think of...
So was it like it just materialized out of thin air?
Right. And they say that they're in the dark. And then we'll get into how that could be...
Did it like drop out of the sky and or did it just appear on the ground?
Just appeared on the table.
Weird. Because I remember covering cases in the past with like poltergeist activity where a coin fell from the sky or fell from the ceiling onto the floor.
Yeah. And then the matches, remember the matches that just manifested out of the ceiling?
Yeah. Or the rocks that rained down on the house for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Ghosts are dicks.
They are. Naturally have that prankster element to them. And I think they deserve that title. But the spirit team would talk to them through this transcommunication. They would experience more bright lights, and things soon started to levitate, things that were around the room. And by 1994, the ghost team instructed the human team to leave a pad of paper and pencil on the floor, and they would just communicate with the humans through that. They would just literally be in a dark room. The transcommunicator would say something, ask them something, and then they basically found a way to communicate without having to slightly possess people. This spirit team was full of, like I said, doctors and scientists, like they said, and this spirit team recognized what they were doing. They recognized what they were trying to do and felt that they wanted to help them achieve the goal of proving to the world that there's life after death. There's audio of these sessions, and you can hear voices that come in and ask them, is this the Scole experimental group? And they all laugh. They're like, yes. And the ghost will tell them, you're doing very important work. We're all here to help you. We're all in this to help you.
Yeah, that doesn't seem right to me. Like, that seems to me, and this is verified that these voices are not coming from anybody that's there. Like, this is they're anomalous voices.
Well, they were talking through the transcommunicators until they did the writing thing, and then eventually, yes, voices come from nowhere.
So to me, that seems similar to like when people get communications from quote unquote aliens telling them you're on the right path, keep doing what you're doing, we're behind you, we're not doing anything to help you, but we're behind you, go. Like, it gives me that sort of feeling.
Right.
And we've talked so many times about how fucking aliens and Bigfoot and ghosts all seem to be very similar. And fairy infestations as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they all kind of share the trickster element.
They sure do. But not in this case. They were all very helpful. They said there was thousands of these entities that they spoke to, but the ones that would help them in this team, they were all scientists and experts, like I said, and they identified themselves as, there was 4 of them: William, Albert, Joseph, and Edwin, and they would regularly communicate with the human team. But there was other entities that would come through. There was a woman from the 19th century called Elizabeth Bradshaw, and she was like an uppity lady. There was a priest named Father McKenna who would come through and through the transcommunicator, and they said that it was like any time that they were down, like nothing was happening, Father McKenna would show up and make everybody laugh. And there's audio of the transcommunicator Alan talking as Father McKenna and just cracking jokes and lightening the mood, and then just laughing is almost like a bit of a stand-up comedy clip. He was just cracking jokes left and right and making everybody laugh. There was also an Indian guide named Raji who would pass on messages from the scientists to the human team when they were not available. And there's audio of him talking, and of course he has an accent, that it's supposed to be some type of, they're allowing them to talk. What do you think about that, Mike, when people do this, when they allow things to talk through them and the accents there? Do you think that makes any sense?
Well, I mean, if something were to be talking through somebody and they had an accent, then yeah, it would make sense. But also maybe this trans medium or whatever is just a really good voice actor and he's just trying things out.
He's just going for it. He's all in.
Yeah, he's like, this is he just got out of Thursday night improv and he's going ghost hunting and he's going to try out some things that he learned in his improv class while he's, communicating with ghosts.
I would do it too. 2 birds, 1 stone.
Yeah, I mean they're a willing audience and you can test some things out, Nice and easy.
Well, like I said, all this is being documented. This is all being video filmed while they do this stuff. They state that they have over 1,000 hours of video and audio evidence. And in 1993, another cool thing happened on November 1st. While they were doing one of these sessions, the group heard a series of loud thumps. And remember, they're in a dark room. Everybody's fucking got glow-in-the-dark wrist things on. And when they turn on the lights...
You didn't say they were at a rave?
A ghost rave. But when they turn on the lights, there was an item placed in front of each person sat at the table. There was a silver thimble, a silver chain bracelet, 2 silver lockets, a St. Christopher medallion, an ornate spoon with a bowl, and a gold medallion with hieroglyphics on it.
Yeah, it's weird that they're able to just manifest these objects.
Right. And over the 5-year experiment, they received over 75 of these items.
With no known origin?
Yeah, no known place of origin. They weren't there when they started it, and with everybody's hands and feet visible, they just appeared there.
It kind of gives me like Skinwalker Ranch sort of vibes.
Right. Again.
Like with just the level of interaction and weirdness.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is another creepy part. The spirit team communicated to the human team that there's far better ways to do this communication. And they actually, I don't know if they used the paper to draw it, but through their design, through their plans, instructed the team to build what they called a spirit doorway. And this was like a set of mirrors that were...
Oh, so here's where their plot comes in. They're trying to build a fucking doorway between worlds. Okay. It explains why they're being so helpful.
Oh my God, it's like watching a movie with my wife. Wait for me to get to the end, damn it.
I will not. I will wife the shit out of you, Mateo.
They did build this spirit doorway. It consisted of like a set of like 3 mirrors facing each other and one in the middle, and they would point 2 cameras at it. And they said the spirit said that this would greatly increase the ease of communication with them. You just recording and listening back to tapes even through the transcommunicating, all that stuff. And soon after they built this thing, they started to see an increase in everything: light, sound, whispers, whistles. They said they started to see shapes that would manifest into full-on solid apparitions.
Well, yeah, it's like the movie From Beyond now. They're teaching them how to build the fucking doorway between the worlds, and you're going to get these weird floating tadpole lizard creatures that are going to eat your face.
Well, isn't it crazy that these spirit things provided the information to build this, and it seemingly worked?
I don't think it's strange at all. They want a way into our world. This was their intention all along. That's why they were being helpful. They were developing trust.
Ooh.
Developing trust among the humans. And they're like, yes, I'm a stuffy old British woman. And yes, I'm the ghost of a really awesome scientist guy. When in reality, they're fucking fairies. And they tricked you into building a portal into the fairy realm. And then they come through and they're like, oh, look at us cast illusions in your household. And it's going to get to a point where you're going to walk down a hallway that didn't exist yesterday. And you're going to find all these rooms, and you start exploring rooms, and you never find your way back. And now you're in the fairy realm, and you've got some bastard fairy posing as you in the real world, and you can only see him through mirrors. And you did it to yourself, you stupid son of a bitch.
Yeah, I'm like stacking mirrors like that. That's just, to me, it seems like asking for trouble. And we've all done it as a kid, like held a mirror to a mirror.
Yeah, it's absolutely asking for trouble, especially when you're dabbling with entities from another realm. Stupid idiots. Stupid. That's how fucking Cenobites get welcomed into our world. So I hope you're happy.
Yeah, I think so too. I totally agree. Don't do that. Don't do that ever. Especially with like 3 mirrors.
I'm going to use 6 mirrors.
No.
And virgin blood.
In the circle of salt. But all the normal stuff increased. They would hear knocking constantly on the walls, the chairs, the tables, everywhere in the room. And it just sounds so nuts to have all this happen with all the fail safes they had in place. To see them go through so much to make sure that none of this could be faked and record this much hours. But you can look this up on YouTube. There's shit that's 10 minutes long on this stuff. There's stuff that's 3 hours long on this stuff. So there's stuff that has most of this footage, 1,000 hours. There's not 1,000-hour video on YouTube about it, but there's a lot of that stuff in there. But shortly, the spirit team wanted to work on experiments that could be displayed to the public. And the regular haunting stuff and communication continued, but they added that they started to be sprinkled with water. And then this is when they started to hear voices without any recording equipment and without any transcommunication or anything like the spirit doorway thing. They would just start hearing these scientists and spirits just talk to them now. At this time, the spirit team wanted to do what they called the camera experiments. Now, Mike, this is where it gets fucking weird. They instructed a human team to get a 35mm camera, hold one of their seances, and the spirits said to take photos when they told them to take photos. Now remember, they're in pretty much a pitch black room. None of these photos should come out. Nothing fucking should show up in these photos at all.
So they weren't using a flash at all?
No, purposely no flash. And they tried this with tons of things. Polaroid cameras that they would manipulate the film to where they can take it out and it wouldn't be exposed, and they would lay that on the table while they had a session, and then take that out and put it back in its case, and then run it through the developer of the Polaroid camera and fucking do all sorts of crazy shit. But this first one was with this 35mm camera, and they told them to take fucking pictures when they told them to, and the spirits would attempt to generate images on the film. And Sandra was tasked with taking these photos. And right off when they started, an orb appeared that floated right up to Sandra and stayed there in front of her face. So she just grabbed the camera and took a picture. After that, she waited for the spirit team, to let her know when to start taking pictures. And they told her to go ahead. And she just sat in her chair and pointed the camera around and started taking pictures with this camera. And after like 5 photos or so, she set the camera on the chair that was next to her. And believe it or not, this camera just started to take photos and even wind itself by itself, taking photo after photo. And I saw an interview with Sandra, and she explains that as they were sitting there, it's dark and there's no flash, but they can hear the camera rise up from the table and go around the room just taking random photos.
That's very alarming.
Yeah. So the team, of course, took this film to be developed. And when they got the film back, they didn't think that it was their film. They thought they got the wrong film. So they took it back, and the people who developed it said, no, this is your film. And they continued to go through the photos. And they finally found a picture that they had taken of outside of the house they're doing this shit in. So they're like, okay, this is our photo. But the rest of the images make no fucking sense whatsoever. There was a picture of St. Paul's Cathedral and a second picture of the same image, but sideways. There was an image of a wrecked bus that was destroyed by bomb damage. And this one too had a second print of it, but sideways. One was the image of the front page of a newspaper from 1936. One was a photo of a group of soldiers from World War I. One was a bright light. And there were multiple photos of groups of people, including a wedding. Now, they wanted to investigate this with what they could, with what they had, so they requested a copy of the 1936 newspaper. And this I found weird, Mike. And this is where it starts to kind of fucking fall apart for me. They get the newspaper, and it's, quote, nearly identical. There's slight variations that are off.
Like, what are these variations? What's going on? What's the difference?
The stuff I watched, I didn't see them go into that. But I got to see the photo that was on the film, and it's just like somebody's holding up a newspaper.
That's fucking weird, man.
It is. So that's the Spirit team told them that these were photos that they took when they were alive. So this is more of what they were going after. This is physical communication. They were able to manipulate something and produce something that can't be done. And both the team and the ghost said that their goal is to be able to do this, that anybody can be able to do this, and it would just be irrefutable evidence. And this is a way to do it. This is a big step towards physical evidence. So the next week, the Spirit team wanted to try an experiment where humans could control orbs that they would have appear and control them with their mind, which they did. They were able to. They have footage of this where they're in a dark room, but there's these perfect little balls of light that are flying around, and they make them come to their hands, and the balls of light sit on their hands for a minute. But speaking of things falling apart, they were told by Raji that they had something special in store. And for them to do this, they needed to drop the temperature in the room. They needed to gather all the energy they could from the room to make this special thing happen, which they did. They recorded the temperature dropping rather significantly. And that's when the light show was interrupted by a loud voice that came from nowhere. They said it was pretty deep and raspy, and it said its name was Paxton. And he would not ordinarily be able to contact them on Earth.
What do you mean he wouldn't be able to contact them on Earth?
But the Council of Communion deemed their work valuable. Remember, I said shit's going to start falling apart. And they also said that there were other councils.
Like maybe the Galactic Council, perhaps?
Yes, maybe.
The Council of Bigfoot Gentlemen, perhaps?
Bigfoot Gentlemen.
It's real, damn it. They sit around with monocles and top hats and drink wine.
I bet. I believe it. But yeah, that's, to me, like I said, this thing started to unravel there with this is where it starts to not sound like fucking ghosts anymore. Spirit team said they wanted to really focus on a public test. And they had steps to do this. They wanted to first invite others to see what's happening, publish their work, and then demonstrate what's going on to the public. So they started to do more experiments with the cameras. A second test with the camera of letting the spirits put shit on it gave them 22 more photos of fucking Mount St. Helens, fucking the Statue of Liberty, all this weird.
At least it wasn't like creepy ghost feet or something.
No, that's gonna come in a minute.
Oh shit! It's the ghosts in a plot twist. The ghosts create an OnlyFans account and only post pictures of their feet.
Yeah.
Nasty, dirty ghost feet.
So they thought that was rather successful, and that they can reproduce it at any time. And they started to do this prep for these public tests, these 4 steps, and they allowed like 1 or 2 people to come in and watch what was going on. And the spirit team said, now invite a team of 6 people. And they said during this time, there was so many spirits there that while these people were there sitting in the room, they can physically see chairs moving that are being pulled up to the table so that these spirits can sit and watch. They said they would feel their clothes brush up against their skin as they would make their way to go sit down or find a good spot.
They just want a spot to chill, that's all.
Right. So after this, they wanted to take it a step further, and they started doing the same type of test with video cameras. And I'll send you a link, Mike. I don't have the pictures right now. I'll send them to you. I'll screenshot them. This is where things get really weird. There's a lot of images that come up, but there's some images that look like human meat. They look awful. It looks like a cross between the cover of Metallica's Load album, with a piece of fucking steak behind it. But there'll be a perfect image of somebody's head in the middle of it.
That's kind of weird.
Yes, it's weird. Turned to the side, like they're not paying attention. And they just started to get really, really bizarre and strange imagery from these video cameras. But nonetheless, it was a successful test. So they go back to their stuff, and normal things keep happening. All the crazy shit. They're going to do some more tests that they can display to the public. There's an entity that comes around after this Galactic Council of Peanut Butter or whatever, and they start to learn that...
No, that's a council I can get behind. The Galactic Council. Like just imagine how awesome, intergalactic peanut butter is. Peanut butter grown under different... Your peanut plants grown under different conditions across the galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
And they come together, and it's like a chili cook-off, but everyone goes and tries the different types of peanut butter.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's a place I want to go to. Who do I have to fucking bang to get a ticket to that place? Please email me. I'm very willing. I love peanut butter, man. I can't help it.
Me too. Who does? Well, there's a lot of people who don't, but I feel sorry for them.
And we hate them.
The spirit team started to explain that they can also communicate with beings from other dimensions. What the human team was doing, and with their help, there were things that were joining them that were not spirit people. So they continue to get ready for this public test. And for this public test, they have a lot of people, a lot of professors, skeptics, journalists, people from NASA that are there to check every fucking thing about this test. They're going to do the camera test. And they have a bunch of fucking people show up, and they do the camera test, and it's successful. They have a thing that they'll develop the film right there, and it's very successful. So they have the spirit team tell them, do this, fucking do this. Have somebody go get a brand new fucking canister of 35 millimeter film. Tell them to bring it here. So they do that, and they bring it there, and it's still in its box. They open it out of the box. They check the canister that it's in. It's all fine. They close it. They tape the box back up and have the guy who got it sign the tape to show that it's the same box. And they put it on the table. The spirits say, wait a few minutes. They take it out. They develop it. It's full of a bunch of weird fucking photos. So they want to take it a step further, and they take another canister of film and they put it in a blackout bag. It's a sealed bag, and they put it on the floor. And I'm going to say they didn't get much with this test, but they did get this one image, Mike. I'm going to send it to you. And this should not be happening at all. If there's no flash on the camera, no light being...
I'm going to tell you right now, if this is a ghost butthole, I'm going to be very perturbed.
Oh my God. I didn't see that, but you might be right. Oh my, I don't even think I can show this now. That's disgusting.
This really is a ghost butthole. The fuck, Mateo? Look at it. It's got a pucker and everything. God damn it.
It does. It does.
Oh, my eyes. Mine eyes.
God, the first ghost asshole caught on film.
A little warning next time. We're going to have to slap a not safe for work sticker on this.
When you put it in this context, like 100%, like not even a little bit. It's just...
I was just joking before I saw the picture, but it really is. It really fucking is.
Oh my God.
The ghosts were just, and those particles are just fart particles. The ghosts just farted right in their fucking camera.
Yeah, just beefed it.
Let it out.
Oh, so the public demonstration was successful. They were going to, continue their work, but something happened to where...
But they put it behind a paywall, and that's how OnlyFans was created.
We have more ghost asshole photos, but it's going to cost you $7.99 a month.
There's also a few nipples out there, too.
Oh, shit. Ghost nips. I'm in. Yeah.
But they're close up, so you don't know if they're male or female ghost nips. They're just close up on nips.
You just get what you pay for. $7.99 is a little cheap.
Yeah, it's like a visual glory hole. You don't know. You can beat off to it if you want, but you might be it might not be what you're looking for. You don't know.
Yeah,
you're taking the risk.
And that's part of the fun of glory holes.
Yeah, yes. It's a literal shot in the dark.
Oh, right. But yeah, sorry. Something.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, people.
Something happened that had the Scole experimental group shut down this 5-year experiment instantaneously. That interdimensional being that I said that
was it for indecency?
No, they were for that. They needed money. But that interdimensional being that the spirit team talked about started to manipulate the spirit doorway by itself.
Who saw that one coming?
Yeah.
Certainly not me getting ahead of the game and wifing the shit out of Mateo.
So, I mean, these things can clearly fucking communicate. There's multiple ways to communicate.
Of course they can.
And there's still something there that's trying to be fucking sneaky, trying to go undetected, trying to do something it's not supposed to do. Like I said, you can look this all up and watch a lot of the videos. There's a lot of interviews with the team from the experimental group that did this. I find it rather interesting that it took that turn like kind of quick. The Council for Communion being able to talk to Earth. What the fuck does that mean? But even with that in mind,
they're the fucking aliens, man.
Maybe.
But they're not aliens. They're fairies. They're absolutely fae, and that's what's up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like it just really quickly turned into having a lot of aspects. There's so much footage over 1,000 hours. They say over 1,000 hours of communication, voices, video footage of the lights and everybody being in the room and talking to these fucking things. It's crazy. It's crazy. So this really supports that. Maybe it's not people. There's manipulation going on in the end, enough to make them concerned enough to fucking close the whole thing down.
Maybe it was the Men in Black.
Who knows, man? I don't know. I just found it fascinating that there's a case like this with so much evidence that, go to YouTube, look it up. I'll put some in the show notes so you guys can just see for yourself. They wanted to prove life after death. And like you said, we all could be being misled when it comes to things like this. But it almost seems like they've proved that there's something out there.
Yeah, and to me, this more proves my point that these aren't the spirits of the deceased. Like, these things were manipulating these people from the get-go. They were making the human connection so that they could open a fucking doorway so they could just walk right in. And they developed the trust. And then once they developed the trust, they started to manipulate that trust and be like, hey, look, we can communicate this way. And then, oh, hey, we can communicate this way. And then they're like, okay, you know what? We've got an even better way. It can make the communication so much better, but you got to develop a doorway so we can walk in. And they just they might as well have put down a red carpet.
You don't know what you're messing with, man. There's no, I mean, it sounds like they fucking activated that Hadron Collider and shit started to show up.
Yeah, literally. They've got a picture of it. Ghost taking a dump right on that camera.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or a sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.